Bong. Yes. Hundy Thou Podcast. Welcome,
back.
everybody. We have a very special interview episode.
Ooh.
We got my friend, Chris's new friend,
Yep.
a fucking renaissance man, a Mr. Worldwide, because he is an indie movie producer. He is a man of the arts. He has his things, most importantly, on Vimeo. Support your artist, but he is Mr. Worldwide. He's in the United States of America and Deutschland, aka Germany, aka the Vaterland, aka the Holy Roman Empire, if you're a history nerd. So welcome
On Amazon, or what is that? How's he in those countries?
In the Holy Roman Empire?
Yeah.
Dude, time machines, bro.
Okay.
Time machines. So without any further introduction, we'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Morrison.
Clap, 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 clap.
Michael, what's
how's
up?
it going, guys? Not much, guys. Not much.
Dude.
Just
Hey, how much are you paying for, I heard San Francisco is more expensive than Vancouver, so how much are you paying for that skyline of the Golden Gate Bridge there?
I'm actually in a bathroom at a Starbucks in San Fran. So
Yeah.
Nice.
You're on that famous...
that cost me $47.
For one coffee. That was the price.
Just use the bathroom
Just
and a coffee.
use the bathroom, yeah. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on here, fellas.
Of course.
And getting her due again. I had a lot of fun last time.
Yeah, if everybody doesn't know, we actually had a wonderful free-flowing discussion with Mr. Morrison.
Yeah.
But fucking we're cheap pieces of shit, and we didn't
Technical
pay for Zoom,
issues. Technical issues.
and we had some technical issues. So
It's an NFT. You guys got to buy the NFT.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think every podcast episode should be an NFT. How do we blockchain?
Sure.
What
I
is a
don't know,
blockchain?
man.
First off, what is a blockchain, Mike? What do you think a blockchain is?
This is why we had you on the show.
Yeah, explain it.
Not to
us.
talk about indie filmmaking, but explain the blockchain.
It's about 100 hours of YouTube videos, and you still won't understand it. So I don't either.
Copy that.
Yeah, no, sorry, I digress. Yeah, thanks for the intro. And
Well, yeah, because of the intro, you made a movie.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
How does that feel, finishing a movie? You're a
It's pretty
producer
cool.
of the movie.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to produce like an independent feature film in Vancouver, and based, like, we shot everything in BC, so it was pretty fantastic experience. We got to work, like, a lot of neat locations, and got to build a lot of relationships with a lot of great local filmmakers, and a lot of, like, our film had First Nations and Indigenous thematic elements, and we were able to build a lot of really great relationships with elders, and
I was going to ask,
a
actually,
lot, Sorry?
there is a lot of those elements in there, but was it written by an Indigenous person?
No, it wasn't, but we had what we had was like a consulting producer to ensure that stuff was appropriate, and and made how
respectful and everything
spoken about, and like there's truth to those elements, because of their how they were able to advise us and help us articulate what we wanted to say, and not come off like
a bunch of fucking asshole white people. Well, and for our audience, the name of the film is Thunderbird. It is, how are you going to say that, buddy? Like a suspense drama?
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's kind of like a supernatural drama.
Supernatural drama.
It's sort of,
Love it.
Like a missing person.
Yeah, I would even go as far, you could say, like a supernatural crime drama. Is what
beautiful.
It is, sort of the essence of it. And and it's set in kind of the heart of the Pacific Northwest, and
filmed in Port Hardy.
Filmed around Port Hardy.
Filmed some stuff in Port Hardy.
Gorgeous
got on
shots.
a fishing boat.
The opening sequence of the fishing boat is like primo, and I mean the dynamic, like that, like the dynamic in the film. Like, I'm not going to spoil things, but of the character, the young guy who's searching for his sister, right? Basically embroiled in this very kind of somber mystery that gets unraveled throughout the film. But I mean, like, the opening scene is that it's shot right on the Queen Charlotte Strait, North Island. Beautiful shots, and he goes into town, and instantly there's that also sequence when he's like walking into town and runs into the kind of the two native youths. Like, I mean, that dynamic between settler and First Peoples, and the kind of tension and almost like this, like I think you guys actually captured that quite quite beautifully, like an idea of almost like it's an interaction and a relationship, a settler colonial relationship that is so regular and actually like part of living on the island, as being a guy from the North Island, living in Canada, living in the West Coast. And yeah, I just think you guys did it great. I thought that the dynamics between it, like what you said, like I don't think you guys really came off as like, you know, the indigenous people just weren't a prop. Do you know what I mean? It was actually like,
Sure.
oh no, this could be any small fishing town, logging town, what, you know, cow town in BC. Do you know what I mean? And I thought that was really cool. I thought you guys did a really good job with that. So
Yeah, I don't know, that was important to us from you know, from the get-go, from the, you know, the executive producers and you know, our writer director Nicholas Treshian, and you know, like the fellow that plays the young man looking for his sister, Colt Milky. He actually worked up there for many years on the halibut boat we were filming on. That was the boat that he worked on. So there's a lot of connection to a lot of different communities that were built and that people already had established, you know, going into this film. So it was pretty neat. It was kind of, that was sort of the interesting part, is like you kind of like any production, you can't, you're filming somewhere remote, or not remotely, but like out of town, like you're kind of invading. So you have to, you know, you can't trample everyone's flower bed and you know, just shove everyone out of the way kind of thing. You have to, you know, have to go in and build relationships with people in the communities to kind of get the access you need.
Super important, as we all know.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then from there, like you start to build like collaborative relationships as well, which was really interesting for me, is just seeing that process transpire. And
yeah, as a producer, what was your role as a producer, like on set?
On set, well, like many things. Like the main thing was, you know, kind of ensuring with the assistant directors that were sort of, you know, on schedule to what we planned to shoot, and if we were going to run into problems, we're not going to be able to shoot a certain thing, is just understanding, okay, well, what's the most, you know, and then, you know, from there figuring out with the director and ADs, like, well, what's, you know, what are the key things that we need to get here, for sure, from like a standpoint of like film shooting the story. Yeah. And then, you know, and then from there too, it's just making sure that everything's running smoothly, like everyone's, you know, getting what they need to do their jobs as best they can. And you know, within, I mean, that's the other thing too, you always want, like, there's all sorts of components with that. It's like everything has a cost to it when you're when you're on set and shooting. Yeah, you know, you're looking at that like big time. Like you have to factor that in. But like, you know, sometimes if you lose like a scene or something, there's a cost associated with that. But then you can, you know, take what that scene was going to cost and put it into something and make it, you know, maybe stronger, or sort of focus all the resources on one, on a different scene, on a different element.
Are you doing that on the fly? Like you're doing something and you're realizing you're not going to shoot something, and you're like, oh, well, let's just cut that and use that money for a different thing. Like, is that happening in the moment?
You can in the moment, for the most part. If when it's in the moment, it's usually that money's been spent on it, so it's just maximizing what you have there for the day. And then if you're kind of seeing, okay, well, this day sort of went this way, just because we're on location and it is taking more time, just because we're an independent. It's a, you know, it's like a lower budget film, so you have what you have as far as like human power and stuff like that. So you can kind of, you can only do so much with sort of the labor force you have, like technician wise and creatives and everything. So you sort of look at it the next day and say, okay, well, we should maybe not worry about this piece of equipment or this item, and let's just go forward, you know, so that we don't have to worry. Because the other thing too is you don't want to put it like panic in people's minds, or that they have to rush all day, because that doesn't help.
No.
either, right? So it's just finding out, it's just asking questions to people and just sort of understanding where the hiccups are going to come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you can dictate so much. Or sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can only, I think you can only dictate so much, like in the moment. It's more, it's happened, so you have it's responding to it instead of reacting to it, I guess, in the long run. Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, just so our audience understands, because I mean, the people that don't work in film or are unfamiliar, I think there's a lot of stereotypes for, if you say like producer, right? Like, oh, you big Hollywood, big shot producer,
slimy guy or something like that.
Yeah, like a big dick Donnie flying in from fucking Napa Valley to come in, you know, put the screws on
babe,
production.
We can't pay for that, babe.
Yeah. But I mean, like, from what you're saying, I mean, and from what you're exemplifying, is that being a producer is so much more, like, especially when you are in a smaller scale. Like, like, would it be safe to say you guys are kind of like almost like wrangling the vision, like you're not, because like you know you feel the role, not in being, I mean, yes, you're there making sure shit's shot, but yeah, like, you're thinking of like the budget, the whole, you know, the entire shooting process, which you're constantly thinking of. So it's actually like I would I would say it's probably safe to say, and I'd ask you this, like, would it be safe to say that you guys have like an extremely important role when you're producing an indie, to kind of like just be that kind of push, like be that kind of person who's getting like making sure the entire vision is encapsulated, not just like a day of shooting, or not just like the scene, but like essentially fucking everything, right?
Yeah, because that's, you know, you're there, you're definitely wrangling the vision. That's a really good way you framed it, actually. That's really cool. And like, you want to support and wrangle the vision. You want to make sure that you know, because directors have their vision of what they want and how they want to go about it and do it. And so it's from there. It's like, you do have to, like you say, wrangling is a good word, because it's not as harsh as like when you're wrangling something. If something kind of steers off, you can kind of pull it back in, so you can sort of channel it back towards what's intended and what needs to be done. And I think that's the thing, because it's like, it is from like an artist standpoint, like, you know, for that writer, it is a vulnerable moment, right? Like, they're sort of sharing their vision, their idea for it. So you want to make sure that there's a good foundation for them to go about that. And I think, and it's just making sure too, like, you can't also like over promise to your, you have to be kind of pragmatic, realistic and pragmatic with what you have. Because if someone wants like you know, if you're doing a film that someone wants a Michael Bay shootout, and you have, you know, you don't have the money for it, you have to find a way to make that work, or what's a creative solution to that. And like a lot of our film, there's a lot of really great creative problem solving.
Yeah.
With sort of, you know, when you bring in like one thing that's really, I won't spoil it, but there's a couple of sort of moments where we, you know, cut around and jump around to different sort of images of violence instead of actual violence. And those images of violence are towards, you know, they portray the violence that's happening in action, but as we cut back and forth, there's just some neat ways, you know, that's after the fact you shoot it and you realize, oh, we need to fill something up here and say something different with a visual metaphor, whatever it is you want to call it. And, you know, because we had such beautiful cinematography from our cinematographer Alfonso Chin, and like, you know, we had that ability to cut back to things that said something, that the image said something to what's going on here, or something more deeper. So, you know, and the other thing too is it was our first, like, that was my first time producing a feature length project. So it's like, it's every day is like a crash course, you know, right? Like, you can plan and put together things, but then when they happen, you're sort of, like you say, you're always wrangling something, making sure that it's in line and ready to rock.
As a producer, it's classically seen as like you're the money guy basically, and you're sort of controlling the money. But when you're not in a major studio situation like Warner or Paramount, whose money are you using? Is it your money, or where are you getting the money? And then you're responsible for the money to the people? Like, how does that work? Like funding.
The funding, like it came in basically from, I would call it like our sort of scenario with more like angel investors. They wanted to see, our executive producer Gabrielle. She was the one that funded the project, and and she had a really, Colton was also a dive master on a guide boat that would go up to Alaska, and Colton and Gabrielle crossed paths and formed a friendship and relationship. Fantastic. And sort of like and Gabrielle and her husband, were very, very kind, generous people, and they'd done very well for themselves and wanted to support someone's artistic endeavor in filmmaking. So they they were there to support us financially along the way. And yeah, you are like you are responsible for making sure that resource doesn't go to waste. And It's not like, oh, okay, well, there's money here, so let's just put it into all our pockets and walk away and say we did our best. When it's like, like it wasn't any. That's sort of the interesting thing about filmmaking is it is a business.
Yeah.
Like
first and foremost, strangely.
Yes, and I think it's like there's two, and it's a huge risk for people, investing into first time filmmakers, because it's like there's a lot of, we did a really good job. We made a great little film, and
Do you show them projections of like what the profit would be? Like, are they expecting a profit, or are they just happy to give money and see a project be made?
I think everyone is expecting profit, or expecting some way that, over a long term, there's all sorts of projections. Like there's all sorts of databases out there that show like numbers based off of like a type of genre that you have, and based off of A to Z factors of how it did and what it did. But and I think people do expect to see that back, but at the same time, ours was in a sense, to really go and try and do something, and then we can start to build that plan on the back end. Like that's where we started out, was to make a film and make a feature film, and not and it wasn't like, oh, you need to make this needs to make $10 million. That would be great, but and we released it on demand. Like COVID was an interesting thing for us. Like we were set up to go to a lot of different festivals, and then COVID happened.
Yes.
And and we had I can't get like too far into it, but we had individuals that were looking to sort of broker things for us, and that it all kind of fell through, and sort of left things in a stagnant position for a little too long. And then and we had luckily we had we made an international sale, which is great, because it gets it allows people to see the film in a different country from ours, which is cool. And it's it's available to watch in Canada and available on Amazon.
That itself is pretty amazing as a first time producer, to have your thing out there that's so readily available,
like
a lot of people just what's that?
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, a lot of people just like upload it to YouTube, and then maybe their friends see it, but it's like a small pool. But when you have it on such a large platform, you're more likely to have a random person just be like, "What's this?" and then just click on it and go for it,
And you guys did play festivals too. You did play festivals too, didn't you? You did Whistler, I believe?
Yes, we did. We did. Like that was kind of the start of our sort of festival run, if you want to call it, or like our showcases through festivals. And like it was yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, it was a pretty neat experience. Like, you're like, sure, it's not like the Sundances and this and that, but it's a very recognized festival in Canada, and like,
Yeah.
you know, got to meet a lot of interesting filmmakers and different people, and it's like it's a proud moment, because it's like, that's like, a festival audience is cool, because we were like a Canadian film, and it was our you know, we made it our world premiere, and also like our Canadian premiere. We were able to compete in a pretty let's call it the George Borsos competition, in the Borsos competition. So he's a, you know, pretty storied Canadian filmmaker, and but this competition, like, we were, you know, we were in the same competition as a film that won the best foreign Oscar. So it's like, you get,
nice.
you know,
Yeah.
Antigen. Yeah, Antigen. There's a I forget the female filmmaker from Montreal. I gotta brush up a little, but it's just, again, you're sort of in this competition with all these really great films and filmmakers.
And you're you're around those people too. Like,
And you're around those people, and you can, you know, your arms reach to have conversations with people, and all sorts of things. So it's really cool from that standpoint. And again, it's like, everyone's hard work that went into it gets to be showcased and admired at the end of the day.
Does that inspire you almost more when you're in that field, where like, you're like, oh, this guy is an Oscar contender, this guy is, you know what I mean? Like, you get to that level, and then it's like, you're in that circle, right? Like, your art is with that art, right? It's shown in the same way.
For sure, it is inspiring. And it's also, when you look at it too, like, you get to see, like, I think for first time filmmakers, festivals are like they're a great way to go. And like, it's almost like, you know, that's, to me, the benchmark for like a first time filmmaker is having your work showcased in a festival, in a recognized festival. And Absolutely. It doesn't have to be, and I shouldn't say recognized, because that's you know, through meaning, like, there's all sorts of great festivals that showcase really great work, and, you know, aren't in Variety and aren't in Hollywood Reporter as the marquee festival, but they're showing great films and people's cool visions and stories, right?
Mm-hmm. For first-time filmmakers, it might seem like a daunting task to try to get into a festival. Is it a lot of like bureaucratic paper writing and all that crap, or is it actually fairly easy?
You know what? Like, we went through. I think there is the bureaucratic side of things, but I think that's, you know, I don't want to, that's more of a negative connotation to throw towards it. But I think, like, there's really great platforms, like Freeway was a really awesome tool.
Sorry, what's it called?
It's a Film Freeway.
Okay.
And it's a database of just about, if there's a film festival and they list it on Film Freeway, you can submit to that festival. So
through that site, through
Film Freeway. It's really cool. And then there was another one out there. It's a tremendous resource, because there's all sorts of things, and there's like, they have screenplay competitions, they have like, you know, a number of different sort of festival type environments for filmmaking that may not necessarily be, you know, and that's the other thing too, is you can look those up, and if you're a filmmaker and you see, oh, that's in my area, you can go get a ticket or a pass or whatever, and go check it out.
Yeah, Film Freeway. That's great. That's
great
to know
Film
about.
Freeway. Yeah. It's a really great resource, and like, you know, there's other ways too. Is you can sort of get to attend events and find out who programmers are, and, you know, chat them up and go about it that way. But like, you know, it is tough to sort of chat someone up that's on the other side of the country, and like, you know, like, the one cool thing about film festivals is your work, and it's assessed by a panel, and like it's not about, you know, the coffee ad and the commitment, you know, I mean, maybe it is an element, but I still think like festivals are sort of like the Olympics for filmmaking.
Right.
Still.
Totally.
Like it's based off of merit in the long run.
It's crazy because like Vancouver, there's so much film for such a small country in Canada, and I mean, whether you're in Toronto or Vancouver, both internationally recognized, film hubs. But what you're saying about like bureaucracy or who like we don't have like LA, New York. I mean, they have fucking like those are places that are entrenched. I mean, those are the money bag spots, but also like you have people who are a guy who grew up in Hollywood, who literally goes to the I got on my phone the San Vicente bungalow, like a fucking private club where you have to stick your fucking camera because it's fucking celebrities. And then like literally, like I was at a guy's birthday party when I was in LA, and he's a director, and like one of his producer buddies showed up, and then he just kind of like left his table and he's like, oh, I got to go talk to these fucking guys. And then they were just having serious conversations, and it was like I was hammered off Negronis, and I was like, man, like that. But just the idea that there's just like places like clubs or like, I mean, like meetings where these people like, you have artists and producers, like you have the people with the visions and the money kind of just always kind of around each other, you know what I mean, like and knowing each other. And like the fact that you guys can make movies here, we can make films here, I think is really cool, because without that, like, we don't, you don't need it really, but it almost makes your kind of to me it seems like your drive is kind of that much, you're that much hungrier to get it out, because you have to do it all yourself. You have to find you have to meet a producer who's a rich person in the Alaska Panhandle. Do you know what I mean? And then like you can make that connection or whatever way, right? Like it's a completely different way of actually starting the process of getting a film made,
Well, yeah, that's it, and like that's how I came about this, was from Colton, like him, like my brother plays hockey, so Colton's from Kelowna.
Colton's
so
the
my
main
brother,
character of the movie.
Colton Wilkie, Colton Wilkie is he plays Will Bruck. Yeah. He'll like that, and he'll dig that. But like I came about it because like he was buddies with my brother, and like it just sort of like, in a sense of who and in a sense of just not in the I lost my train of thought, but like again, just someone that I got to know through my brother. Yeah, very random, like a very random who and like and I don't even think it was the essence of that, but like I think we just got together and decided like, hey, like let's start something. Let's do this. And like fucking and our investors were like, okay, well you need to come to the table with like a completed script and a budget and a breakdown and scheduling and like the how are you going to do it? Like they understand the why, but it's like the how, and
the how.
The how is great.
How can we get into action? Or sorry?
Yeah, in Vancouver, the how is great because it's like on the, like you mentioning world-class like technicians, basically. Like Vancouver is a world-class technician place for shooting movies. Like it does so many TV shows like Riverdale and all this kind of stuff, like big popular TV shows that I think people kind of forget because they always think of LA as like the movie place. But it's like we have on par world-class technicians in Vancouver who work in film. Like we pump out so much stuff. So it makes sense that there's all these indie filmmakers in Vancouver because we're all like super talented, basically,
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100%. Like you could like, it's interesting. I'm just saying more about what you said, but like we're in a place where why couldn't Vancouver be the place where like top end IP is developed, shot, done, retained. You know what I mean? Like the service industry is huge. Like the production service industry is huge in Vancouver, and again, like and again, like you say, like we've benefited from that as a training ground as filmmakers. And there's there's people that come here after film school. There's people that like got into it because another industry shut down, and they have applicable skills that are transferable to the film industry. And like, and the cool thing about film is like you get in there's great people that like will show you the way, and like so I think that's that's a credit too, is like there's a lot of people been around for a long time as technicians.
It's also a boom right now. Like there's a boom, so there's a big open door for people to join the industry. Whereas maybe earlier, like decades ago, it might have been a little bit harder because it was like not as busy. So to like get your foot in the door was tougher. But now it seems like it's a little bit wide open. If you did want to get into film, it's not that hard to stay in it and to advance fairly quickly.
But to combine what both of you guys are saying, because I think there's a boom, which is right. So there's a lot of people, but then what Mike was saying, where you have these old experienced technicians. So like, it's a weird thing where like, it becomes that much more almost esoteric to kind of stay in, because, but then if you actually, like if you actually stick with experienced older guys, or like, like you kind of prove that you're willing to like stick it out, people will see that and then kind of treat you, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like, they're like, okay, you kind of get the pass, or you get like the touch where it's like, okay, you're almost like one of us. Like you're willing to fucking do these stupid nights or do this or do that. And like,
you get more opportunities,
and you get more opportunities. Yeah. You get taken more seriously.
Yeah, I think so too, because it's like that's in, to touch on that, I think it's like the people that are in the leadership positions and in charge of departments and stuff, they've sacrificed a lot. We work long hours in film, right? Like, and it's like, I think there's an element, it's a team environment, right? Like if everyone's willing to go the extra mile, or there's a million cliches, or
you're all suffering together,
But yeah. Like it's exactly that's well put. Yeah,
we're all suffering together.
We're all suffering together and having. But you know what? We have fun. We have fun when we do it. Like like that's kind of the thing. Like the experience you can gain in Vancouver, in any facet of filmmaking is I don't think there's many other Canadian cities. Like you say, by Toronto and maybe Winnipeg,
the big ones.
Halifax.
But
like
I'd say Toronto maybe.
Toronto's big, but I don't know about you guys, but man, like I can't picture myself going back. It's a weird, you open the door and then you're like, I can't go back. Like I've gone into sets, and like with like it, like fucking fake blood everywhere, or like broken glass, or you're like, you're in some weird studio and you're just kind of like looking around and you're like, you know what though? Like I don't think I'd want to be anywhere else. Or you're like in the rain, and like right on the ocean, and or like you're in some rock quarry in Pitt Meadows and it's fucking 2:00 in the morning and they're fucking doing 5 more fucking takes of some stupid scene. But you're like, hey man, like
it takes an adventurous spirit.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, sure does. Well, I was gonna say too, Montreal would be a really cool place.
I'd love to fucking work in Montreal
as a filmmaker. And just in general, Montreal's such a
Montreal's
great
a shit. Shout out to Montreal.
I really 100%. Yeah, there you go.
Shout out. Yeah. Your weather sucks, but you're a cool city.
Yeah,
I learned quite a bit when I first, because I've always been interested in film, and I always used to like watch behind the scenes kind of stuff and like movie magic stuff where they show you, how special effects are done, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I actually got onto a set and was watching how it actually functions, like till I started learning what roles were and stuff. Like I always just imagined the director was the one kind of setting up the shots, and like to a certain extent they are, but it's so like it's all segregated little jobs, like cameras setting up the framing, like the cinematographers kind of almost has the last call, like, are we going again? Ask the cinematographer, are we doing another take?
Yeah.
Like I would have thought that was the director. I know there's to a certain extent it's both of them, but it's like all the roles started to become more clear to me, and I was actually blown away at how intense it is and how many people, different groups of people are working together. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just opened my mind quite a bit to the whole process.
Oh, big time. And it's like you say, it's almost like it's interesting because like to someone who like a passerby and just sees all the commotion and things running around. But like you say, once you're on the ground looking at it, like it's a really interesting quality system, you could say.
Yeah.
And like that, and when you look, like you say, like the take system, it's like, oh, you know what? There was too much light spilling here, and I didn't, I wasn't. Let's knock that back a little bit, or like, and then the actor maybe picked something up with the left hand instead of the right hand. Like these are just sort of trivial things.
Let's get a different shaped cup. Where's props? We need. I don't like that coffee cup. Get a different cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, there's all sorts of things. But that's sort of what's neat about it is it's really like it is a big quality system at work that's had like hundreds of years of like being ironed out. So it's like you're seeing it too. Like, there's it's neat. Like I I really
organized
love the
chaos.
whole,
Everyone will say that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, sometimes I
sure.
can't believe the movie's being made, like with all these different personalities and setting stuff up and in conflict sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's so trippy.
It's crazy. And as a producer, like you're there. I mean, you're there even before the vision, right? Like you talk to a guy.
Sure.
You talk to fucking Wilkie. You fucking get that shit going. But I mean, like there's the pre-planning, you know, the pre-production, production, post-production, then fucking getting into, you know, trying to sell it. But like my experience working, like I've done locations work where you do right? You're prepping fucking locations, but there's so much like what to add to Chris is saying, there's so many people moving around the organized chaos, and when you're on a big set, you're doing something important, right? And you're contributing, you're cutting light, you're editing, your costumes are there, blah blah blah. But you, like, the fact that we put so much work in, and you literally have zero control on the finished product, to me is fascinating. Like, we're these cogs, but we're like, well, I hope it's good. You know, you wipe your hands and you're like, oh, I hope that's good. You know, like, what a crazy thing. Because like when we made music, we had complete control, right? We had the ideas, we had the beats, and even mastering it, right? And like tweaking it. Mm-hmm. Even when we did music videos, we edited our music videos, right? A much smaller thing, but like contributing something artistic, but then just merely being almost like in an army, right? You're like, I'm the guy, you know, I'm the fucking heavy fire guy, I'm the support guy, I'm the engineer, I'm the medic. Like, you're all part of an army, but like you all have like specific roles. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then like, to me, that's such a fascinating aspect of that job, because you're creating this giant work of art, like all your fucking sweat, but you still are just a fucking soldier, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's sort of the, it's like, I think it can lead, like, I think there's two sides of that coin, like, because there's a side like, well, I'm just a cog, and I'm just, you know, mm-hmm. Here you go. But it's like you say, there is, everyone embodies like Chris was saying, like a really adventurous spirit. Yeah. And like everybody, when people show up, they want to do a good job, because, you know, and you know what, sometimes you're sweeping up cigarette butts, and then, you know what, I can tell you, like, right now, like, that person sweeping up butts could be making the next Marvel film.
Definitely.
They could be a PM in 5 years.
That's what they always tell you on set. Yeah, they're like, be nice to everybody, because that could be your boss tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
it's 100%. And like, but yeah, that is an interesting thing, though, because it's like, oh, well, I'm a small piece, like Mark and I grip together, and we're, you know, we are a small piece to it. We're still, like, at the end of the day, like, if you remove that one cog, like, either, you know, I think by virtue there would be just a swarm of other technicians just coming in from other departments trying to make it work. But if you just removed it and there was no support from anyone else, you wouldn't have as beautiful light and images and really cool vantage points for shots, because, you know, like, we're tasked sometimes, we got to go up in a lift,
in a fucking giant lift,
50 feet in the air, mount a camera, a 50-pound camera with all the lens and gear on it, over an actor, make sure it's safe, make sure it's ready to go, to give that privileged perspective and view of that scene.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then, you know, and it's like, you know, and it's, I can understand too, sometimes people see it like there's so much going on for everyone at once, like it's really, it's tunnel vision. Like, this happens to me often. You get tunnel vision, and you're not necessarily aware of what's, you're just aware of, like, okay, well, that's, you're seek and destroy. You're a soldier.
That's my job. I kind of, at first, I thought that was kind of like dinkish, that people wouldn't help each other. But then I realized that on a stressful, like, show, if you're like really going, like, they're just kind of powering through the day, you don't have time to be considerate about other people's departments. You could be nice, obviously, but you're sort of like, I have to get this up right now, and you're kind of in my way, so now I'm being slightly rude. You know what I mean? Because it's like I have to do. You're feeling the time pressure.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's just like dangerous, right? Like get out of the way. Like like don't push this crane, or like we have to do this. Like
yeah,
I think there's a tier, because I think like there's certain guys on set, like if you're a grip and an Alex guy starts helping you, you're like great, or like you help set deck move a table because you're there and you're like, I'm here, I'm a big guy, like I'm gonna move it. But yeah, like you don't want a fucking cameraman touching. Like I've had like producers' assistants start touching grip gear to get it out of the way, and I'm like, I'm literally right behind you. Don't like just get the fuck out of the way. Like I'm touching this. Like you're not touching this. Like
yeah, and yeah, no, and that's I think it's like, again, but that's that sort of infectious and contagious energy of like collaborating. You want to help everyone.
Yeah.
You want to help out, but it's like at the same time too, like sometimes there are people that like if there's a flag set or a frame set and someone goes and moves it, it's gonna change the way the light looks. And
everything.
Like, it's just like once it's interesting. It's like it is. From an artistic standpoint, you're painting with light, so it's like that stroke of light or that beam of light is a precise stroke, right? So if you adjust it or move it, it changes that whole frame. But
I've been on sets like that, where like a PA is moved. Like we did an elaborate setup behind a school, and like with lighting, and we were like cutting the light a certain way with flags, and then a PA moved it to like have a greater access through for some fucking reason, and then the DP, the cinematographer, is like, what the fuck is going on? Like looking at the monitor, like, and then the grip is like, I didn't fucking, like, what the fuck? Then I'm like, I didn't. It was just like a lower down the ladder. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, then I ran over and I'm like, do not move our fucking flag. Like this is because this is set up specifically for this, for the fucking light. Like it's hilarious.
Oh no, for sure. And like that those kind of things, like most service production is a heavily unionized environment. So it's like
you're not supposed to touch each other's stuff.
A touches A stuff and B touches B stuff. You always ask. It's just you just ask, and it prevents like those things. Because that's the thing. Someone's already so far down their mind, and they've dealt with that one thing, and they have to go back and re-deal with it. And it may seem menial and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just like, we have a certain amount of time, and then from a producer standpoint, like every minute costs.
Hold on, Mike. You're kind of cutting. You're a little quieter right now. Sorry to interrupt you.
How's that sound?
Oh, way better.
That's way better.
Fuck.
Don't worry, we'll edit this.
Yeah.
We won't edit this.
Earbuds.
This is Gonzo. This is Gonzo Podcast.
That's fine. It's perfect now.
It's great, buddy. You're beautiful.
That's good. Okay. I just need to put you guys on speaker just so I can hear a little better. It was just on my phone speaker.
Gotcha.
Wait, go on. Sorry, guys.
Now the video's
paused. This is chaos.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
We got it. Okay. Got to ask you about your experience with a legend of Vancouver filmmaking, Uwe Ball.
Oh.
So for those that don't know, this guy is like a person who buys video game properties, like IPs, and then makes terrible movies out of them and makes a few bucks off of them, like $5 to $20 million movies. And he's a psychopath also. Yeah,
this is what he did. He's this German filmmaker. He went around like 15 years ago when nobody gave a shit about video games, basically collected funding, got the licensing from said video games, came to Vancouver, contributed to our industry, but by making the fucking worst fucking movies of all time,
critically destroyed
with
on the
huge
internet.
Actors. Yeah. So imagine this like psycho German dude comes in who looks like a fucking angry turtle, and
with the same attitude too.
You're on set, and it's like with Jason Statham and Ray Liotta, and you're like, this is insane. I heard the budget is $30 million. Wow, this is great. And then you proceed to work on the worst movie you could ever fucking think of.
When it comes out, it's one of the worst things you've ever seen, and no critic likes it, and it's universally panned.
On this podcast, we encourage everybody listening to please Google, Wiki, Yahoo if you still have it, YouTube, Uwe Ball, UWE Ball,
BOLL.
Yeah. And the calamity that he created in the city. And the kicker is that he invited a bunch of his most profane critics from the internet to a boxing match in Vancouver and proceeded to beat the stuffing out of these internet nerds because they dared to criticize his works.
They also showed up thinking it was like all fun and games publicity stunt, but this guy had basically trained as an amateur boxer for 4 months before this and then beat the shit out of them all. Yes.
Oh, poetic justice.
Mwah.
It's beautiful. Like, how can I love something that is so vile?
And now you,
how is
Michael,
that possible?
You had direct contact with this man?
Yeah, what's your connection? What's the Mike Morrison?
What happened?
Oh,
you have some experience.
Connection.
When I first started out, I worked for a company that was doing something with him. Like, he had a concept for a show, and it was sort of springboarding off of that notion of like fighting your critics,
beating
up
your shit out of your critics,
right? Like, it was never going to go down. I don't think it like the legalities of doing something of like, unless it's like the Ultimate Fighter kind of show. Yeah. I don't think was ever gonna like fully pan out, but it was rooted around this like idea that like, you know, I do have to be sort of broad because I from last time was looking at this, but like in the essence of it is like he's a big foodie. Like my interaction with him like wasn't necessarily him motoring around and like these stories you hear of like a tyrant and this and that. It was like we were like the access we were given was to his personal life and you know, and just seeing him, like, he's very passionate about food, and he opened a really cool restaurant called Bauhaus, and he brought in this cool Michelin star chef, and like, you know, we followed him around. But you know, it's interesting, like but he does have a distinct, like, this is how it is, and don't get in my way with it, because I'm not
vision. The man's got vision, man.
The man's got vision, and like,
vision,
you know what? His stuff didn't. His vision did not. What's
trash, dude?
What's the word?
Fucking baby diarrhea.
Good results.
Like, it's bad. It's bad. They're bad movies. But again, like we were saying before, Chris, like this is a whole business, and someone that comes and says, you know what, this is great video game IP.
That is just exactly it. Well, he understood the business aspect more than the filmmaking aspect.
He was probably going to the fucking San Vicente bungalow and being like, yeah, look, I have $4 million from Germany. I'm a very good director. My vision is very strong. Like, he was probably just like these fucking salesman. Like weird LA dudes, right? Who are so unsure of themselves and living in essentially existential crisis every day. And you have this iron Kaiser will of this just fucking, like, they're like, oh, this guy's a fucking genius. Oh, he has Ben Kingsley.
He knows exactly what he wants.
In the Blood Rain movie. He has Ben Kingsley. How can we not give him $12 million? Guys, think. Yeah. How can we not give this fucking Kaiser, this iron-fisted fucking general, $12 million with Ben Kingsley in the vampire movie? Everybody loves vampires. Everybody loves Ben Kingsley. He's German. He's efficient. And then he just makes the worst movie you could ever think of, because his vision or his idea and his, like, you have to admire the man's creative, like how he's protected his own. He's like, I will see it through, like, his willpower. But it's just funny because he has the willpower of a Kanye West, of a Bob Marley, of a genius. But
the talent of a Tommy Wiseau.
The talent of a Tommy Wiseau. The talent of a Tommy Wiseau. The talent of, like, not even a day one Vancouver Film School student. Like, not even the talent of a guy who makes skate videos. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah. Oh,
I love that.
But he's a nice guy.
But he's a nice guy.
You had a great time with him,
but you know what?
Great
like,
restaurant.
The thing that, like, you know, he was just, again, it's that's interesting because it's like that. This,